right, I want to introduce you to Sarah Gilbert. She's first and foremost an opera singer, as illustrated by her @SingingTech Twitter handle, and she's the community manager for the Microsoft Tech community for the Microsoft public sector. She's amazing at keeping those of us in the public sector up to date with the latest happenings, and she's been a good friend to me and my daughter, and I just want to thank you so much for joining me here today, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So for those who don't know you, who have not had the honor and opportunity to interact with you like I have, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
Okay, so I am originally from Las Vegas. I am the community manager for the Microsoft public sector tech community. And in honor of this podcast, I actually put this together. I'm in the government cloud. Or no, here, this is like, these are the two, it's Washington and Lincoln. And they're asking a question I always ask, which is it in GCC high or DoD every time something comes out. Just to make sure so I can keep up on it. Yep, I came into tech from an opera career. I was an opera singer for about, I want to say 7 to 8 years before I transitioned into tech. I still sing opera from time to time, just not full scale, because that's a huge time commitment. And now I currently live in the Seattle area.
So you can't just gloss over the opera part, right? Where did you go from opera, which I think is amazing, to IT?
So I ended up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I needed a job. And I was looking at a bunch of different postings, and I saw one for GoDaddy. That's actually how my tech career started. And on the posting, it was letting anybody apply, but I remember this. It said, this was back in the day when they said that they wanted you to have a computer science degree. Now, I had 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's and a master's in music. Don't have a computer science degree, but I figured I would try to apply to it anyways. And I still remember this. I was going through the interview. The person interviewing me was Tom Bardella. And I remember it was like my last final interview where they were going to offer me the job. And I didn't want to feel like I was dishonest. So I, broke down. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm so sorry I don't have a computer science degree. And he was like, oh, that doesn't matter. You already passed all our tests and musicians are really good at tech anyway. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, there's a lot of them. You'll do fine. And from there, kind of like my career went, because I realized, especially going into GoDaddy puts you through training. I want to say it's like 1 to 2 months of training. A lot of the skill set that musicians have it translates into the technical. Pattern recognition is a good one, or being able to conceptualize an idea with minimal data, or work amidst chaos and adapt to change, especially as a musician. Well, too, you're a musician as well. Like, you have to adapt to things going on all the time. It's never exactly how you picture it.
Right.
So from there, after I was I worked for GoDaddy on their ground floor, and I was trying to figure out where I was trying to go in tech. So I tried a little bit of everything. I took classes in programming, looked at project management, and I ended up connecting with GoDaddy's social media team and helping them with a lot of events and different promotions and different contests. And then I also helped with tech writing. So I helped write a lot of the original internal and external articles for some of the products. And from there, I specialized. Then I went to, I realized I wanted to move to Seattle. I didn't want to be in Arizona anymore. I grew up in a desert. It's just not for me. I can't with that. I want seasons. Because really in Vegas, the 2 seasons are hot and slightly less hot.
Right.
That's really it.
Arizona as well.
Yeah, exactly. Every now and then, well, no, Arizona has monsoon season. That's about it. And so I took a job with a Microsoft partner. It was a startup, and there I was doing a lot of server admin tasks, more technical tasks, and I was a technical account manager. And then I still helped them with their marketing. And from there, I transitioned to my career here, where they wanted somebody that was that marketing and technical hybrid to be able to not only help to get the word out about different services and things underneath public sector, but also be able to talk to it and understand it. So that's how I ended up here, and I love it. I love being in this field where technical meets marketing. You know, you need creativity in tech. I think that's what helps drive a lot of the innovation.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I like your story because, you know, for a lot of people trying to figure out, I want to get into IT. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing X today, but you know, technology is so interesting to me, or I know that there's a lot of need, and there is a lot of need in terms of, you know, different careers, because technology is constantly changing and growing. There's new things to learn, lots of things to implement. I just love your story because it shows people who didn't start on an IT path and go get that computer science route, that's not too late, right? There's a
No.
chance to take skills you've learned through your other, you know, career and leverage them against what we do in the IT field. And I also like that you're working in you know, one of the areas of IT we may or may not always talk about, right? The tech writing and the social media aspects. I mean, social media probably is a little bit more well known nowadays because every company's got to have that. But you know, the
Right.
writing and the making sure documentation's good and making sure both internal and external. I mean, that's a really, really important thing to make sure the engine runs.
Exactly. And to make sure people are aware of it, the information's accurate. And then there's an aspect of community management that's also, it's like project management, and the community is one of the best parts. You know, one of the things that I've loved about helping create and cultivate this community is, much like Ariel in The Little Mermaid, you go where the people are. And it's not always one set path, you know, for government IT workers and a lot of people in public sector. It's not just Twitter or Facebook. There's Reddit channels. There's a lot of these side chats going on. There's some of these events. And so a lot of it is finding your people and bringing them together to be able to share thoughts and ideas, and, you know, not only like blast information out at them, because I think that's what Twitter is for the most part. You're just kind of throwing things at people, but it's a place where you can have real interaction, and also a place where we can see where the actual problems are. It, you know, talking to the community helps inform our content, which is what I love about it too.
That's awesome. So, I mean, so that kind of explains how you got into IT, which is normally my second question. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of roll right into that. Um, let's thinking around those lines. So you've been in IT a while, and
Yep.
you've experienced a couple companies and the different ways we do things at different places. What's something that if you were given, you know, the power for the day, right, the magic wand or whatnot, what's a change that you think we should make in IT that would be, you know, for the better in terms of how we do things today?
I mean, I just think of like me coming into IT and kind of how you know, this has been said often enough. I do think that there need to be more women, but I think that there needs to be more encouragement across the board, not just for women, but for minorities, as well as making it accessible. And I know that they're starting to now, making it more accessible for our youth, I guess you could say, you know, in colleges and in high school too. Because I remember, I'm 35 now, like we had just discussed, but like I remember in high school, there really wasn't much for it. You know, they didn't really make it as accessible.
Mm.
Or they gave, you know, it was the idea that like, oh, if you learn to program, you know, you're a, you know, you shouldn't do that. And it was even discouraged, you know, and it's, or thought of as lesser than, and it's not. And it's something that I think should be encouraged, as well as I like I, I've met so many people in tech and Microsoft even that have come from unconventional backgrounds.
Mm.
And I would love to see more programs to help not only get people into tech, but to leverage different skill sets to help transition them into tech faster. Because you know, I've met so many musicians that have told me about trying to get into tech and when it all finally clicked for them. And it would be great to develop programs like that that can map somebody's skill set and kind of help guide them into that career a bit better.
I like that. That's an interesting idea. I mean, Because I mean, that is a big thing. I mean, I do mentoring
Mhm.
on the side because I just love to help not only the younger generation. I love mentoring youth, but also people who are fresh in their career. And that is an interesting. That's a question I've heard time and time again. Is, I'm interested in getting into IT. How do I make that transition? What's it look like? And uh, without going back to school, right, and making a significant investment in
Right.
another college degree that they
Hmm.
that they may not be able to afford. So it's an interesting conundrum. And I do appreciate there are many big companies, I think Microsoft included, that have started talking about hiring high schoolers now instead of only college graduates, because it will broaden the pool of people they can hire, and then they can build them up themselves, and give them the relevant training that will get them started on a career. It's pretty interesting.
Exactly. And it makes more sense too, because sometimes even like what you learn in college, it might all be different by the time you graduate.
Yeah.
And I, I mean, I guess I'm biased because I do come from a conventional background, but I think it's good to have a mix of different people from different backgrounds. If everybody came from, broke off the same mold, you're never going to get the flow of new and interesting ideas that you could get from a better mix of people.
That,
And that's,
yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, there was a great book. The book was named "Your Software Sucks." I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but his entire premise was, you, the college graduate with a computer science degree, are writing software for people like you, but your users aren't you. Your users have different backgrounds, different degrees, maybe not a degree, right? And you're writing software as if they came through the same experience you did, and you need to rethink that paradigm. And that's why I think customer experience as a field is huge right now. They're certainly flourishing within the government space, because government does a lot of public facing things, and they're trying to leverage technology for that, and they need to understand the customer experience.
exactly. And I think that's the other reason why I like our community, because you can actually see the voice of the customer. It's not just, it's not just an echo chamber. Nobody's just like congratulating each other and saying that everything's perfect and sunshine and rainbows. It's, a place to actually like kind of drop that curtain and give that real feedback, or talk about real problems that are happening, so that can be surfaced too. Or even, like I said, it informs our content. So sometimes if someone's like, I don't see enough about X subject, then we could be like, okay, obviously we need to talk about this more, because I can only find 2 other articles published on it, and they were 4 years ago. So how about
Yeah,
we do a new one?
you've done a number of Ask Me Anythings,
That's happened to me. Hmm.
the I'm sorry about that. So the number of Ask Me Anythings you've hosted recently is amazing, because those are great opportunities for people to ask the really hard questions, like, hey, how come this sucks in GCC? Or people tell me it's supposed to work and it doesn't, and it's
Hmm.
GCC high or DoD, and sometimes the documentation isn't as explicit in terms of what works in which cloud instance. I just kudos to you and Microsoft as a whole for being willing to take that criticism and then provide feedback.
Right. And I think that those Ask Me Anythings are just as important for the, engineers and PMs that are answering the questions, as they are for the customers. It's one of the reasons why I love them so much, is because they can see like in real time what people are asking. Because you can put out a survey or a form anytime, and those are have their place too, but to actually get those questions in real time from people, you're, like that curtain drops, and you're seeing, yeah, like just kind of like the real raw issues that they're talking about. And also having examples. You can look at technical documentation all day long, but seeing it in practical application is different.
I think that's true. Wow. So thinking ahead to the future, both for yourself and for this community you're building, where do you see this going? I mean, where do you see the growth opportunities for both yourself and
Mm-hmm.
for how we do this interaction in the tech community?
It's always such a loaded question, just because position titles always change. I mean, at this point, I don't, I've gone through title changes. I'm like, just call me a wizard. I don't know. Or no, actually earlier today, I signed off on something just saying XOXO public sector gossip girl because it had been a long
All right, well, I'm gonna have to
day.
put that on every email I send to you now. That's the way I'm gonna title it.
XOXO public sector gossip girl. I think the person I said it to as well didn't even get it. Like I was laughing, they weren't, and I'm like, never mind. Um, uh, so for the tech community, it's already, you know, steadily growing. What I want to see for it, public sector as well as other communities, is I want to build even more engagement on both sides of the, you know, of the spectrum, I guess. So I want to see more engagement from not only customers and partners, but also employees. So I want that membership to grow. I prefer online community. Again, I'm biased, but you know, it's true. I prefer online communities like this where there's actually a two-way conversation versus you can kind of do it in Twitter, but you're limited by what, like you're limited by the character count, and Facebook
and
is
attention span, right?
exactly character count, attention span versus like this is kind of more, you know, a direct line. So I want to have that membership built up. I also want, if anything, more and more members to help and come in and inform our content, because not only are we doing content from Microsoft and Microsoft employees, but we do, as you know, guest blogs.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street any way you look at it for public sector, and most of our communities are run that way as well. So I want to see more of that built up. For myself, I just want to keep progressing in this career, and it's weird because I don't want to go like that typical marketing route. Also, people tend to think of marketers as like salesy people, which they're not, but I want to continue doing roles that are just this creativity, marketing meets technical hybrid, because I feel like that's where you can really, it works both sides of my brain. So it's kind of where I thrive. Basically like the next steps up would be things like, you know, a type of, title's called now, product marketing management, program management, director level, things like that, where I can not only, you know, help in a small community, but start to inform strategy at a larger scale.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, well, and I would love to have you do that. That would be great.
Yeah. Also, it's also really cool to me to just kind of walk into meetings and have somebody look like me. So, which even now I think it still throws people off. Where like, oh yeah, where's the public sector person? And I'm just like all like dressed in black. And I'm like, hey. So
I think that's a pro. I think you get the unique. It's like your branding at this point. I mean,
yes.
Besides, it's Teams colors, right? Microsoft Teams. You're a team player, and it's Microsoft Teams.
I think when I like originally, it was either Rima or somebody I met like at the first Ignite I went to. Someone was like, "Oh, you dyed it to match Teams," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That's what I did." We'll go with that. It's like at this point my hair is kind of like a mood ring. So
since we have a chance, tell everybody where they could go to participate in the tech community.
Oh, you cut out for a second. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. So share with us how people can get involved in your public sector tech community.
Okay. So if you go to techcommunity.microsoft.com, you can go ahead and sign up. It's completely free. It just asks for an email. You can use your work email or whatever email you like, and then look up the public sector community and click on join.
I think you're under special topics,
Yeah, special topics, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can give you the link as well. You can also follow us on Twitter, it's MST Community, or you could follow myself, which I am just Singing Tech. And you'll see my picture across there. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and even part of several government IT Reddit communities.
Yeah, and I'll put those links down in the description of the video when we put it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope we do many more of these. That's the other thing I'd like to see actually for the community. I want to see more video and audio interactions, especially because of COVID and everything. It helps us connect with each other.
That's a good point. Well, I want to thank you, Sarah. I mean, you're such a vibrant person. You've been a help to me and my daughter, as you were the one who helped me really start a user group in the DC area for public sector specifically. And we're an inspiration in helping me get the right speakers to that. So I thank you so much for the work you do at Microsoft and for the community at large, more importantly, especially for public sector, for those of us in that realm.
Oh, welcome. Anytime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.